plumberparts.co.uk. Honest reviews and advice.
Hold tight and welcome to today's plumberparts.co.uk video. My name's James and today we're going to be having a very quick look at the murky, dark world of top entry immersion heaters. Now this immersion heater here isn't working very well, or it's not working at all. They basically found out because their heating system went mad. They turned their immersion on as a backup and nothing happened. Next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call. Oh my god, we got no hot water. Get Jimmy from Plumber Parts out here right now. So here I am. So basically the procedure that we go through when we're changing an immersion heater is to firstly isolate electrically the immersion heater, make sure that's done. If you're not happy doing that, then I suggest you don't even carry on with this job and get a proper real plumber like me to come out and do it. The next thing we need to do is turn off the cold water supply to the bottom of the hot water tank. Then we drain down the hot water out the top. We can do that firstly by opening all the hot taps in the house, and then secondly by finding the drain off at the bottom of the tank. Now because this is a top entry immersion heater, all we'll need to do is drain out a couple of litres at the top of the whole tank itself. Also, I'd say as a small tip is to try and loosen off the immersion when it's full of water, okay? Because that water tends to stabilise the copper tank because they can be prone to ripping because you've got a very fine, thin copper wall that's holding the whole tank together. So do that first. Make sure then that you drain off about 5 to 10 litres worth of water. You should know that it's drained out okay if you crack the nut on the outlet at the top. You'll know then that everything's all right. So anyway, if you follow us as we go along and do it, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this as much as I am, because this is the best job you could ever do, especially when you're around one of your mates' houses. Hey Dave! Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and it helps you out if you've got a top entry immersion heater that's gone wrong. Hold tight! So nice and easy when it comes to switching this off. It's just on this plug here. We can just unplug this plug and then we know that there's no power going into our immersion heater. So if we take a closer look at the actual tank itself, this here is our hot outlet, okay? So this is the hot water that's going out to our taps. Obviously we've got our immersion heater at the top just there. Down here we have our flow and return from the coil of the boiler. So there's our flow there and that goes through a coil and then back out, nice and simple. Little bypass valve down there. But then the bit that we're worried about at the moment is the cold feed. So we have our drain off just here, like so. We follow this pipe up. We should be able to see that we've got a big valve, this one here. So what I'm going to do is turn off this valve here now. You should now be able to open up all the hot supplies. What that's doing at the moment is draining out the expansion pipe up to the loft. Now as you can see, that's pretty much stopped running now. At this point, if we find that this is still dripping here, you've probably got a problem with that valve there holding. Therefore, you might have to turn the mains off, open that valve up fully again, and then basically drain the whole tank out. Alternatively, if you have the facilities, you can actually bung the tank, but you need special bungs to do that. And if you're here watching a video about how to do an immersion heater, you probably don't have those tools with you. So, as you can see, it's still running a little bit. We're just going to open up a few more taps, and if we've got a problem with that valve, we'll address that now. Right, so now we've got the water off, we know that the valve's holding, and basically now the water level of the hot system is about up to the top of the tank there. Before you carry on, make sure that all the electrical isolation you've done is okay, alright? Make sure that you use a voltage tester, make sure that you pull any fuses that could be nearby, and also make sure that you identify what trip the immersion is on and throw that trip to the off position as well. What we're now going to do is get our hose on the drain off at the bottom of the tank and get that into a bath or outside in preparation, but we're not going to open it just yet, because what we're then going to do is remove the electrical wire from the old immersion heater and make sure that that's nice and loose before we start draining any water down. Now to loosen one of these off, you might find you need a myriad of tools. I often find a nice set of Stilsons help. Obviously you can use this standard immersion spanner that will fit over the top of the immersion nice and easily. And I've got another type here. You can't really have enough certain tools to actually remove immersions, because once they've been in for a long time, getting hot and cold all the while, they can get very, very tight. So often, if this one here doesn't come apart easily, what I'll do is sometimes get my blowtorch out, try and warm it up, or also shock it with a hammer, just tap round to try and shock apart the seal, and then it should come apart nice and easily. This is genuinely the most difficult part of removing a top entry immersion heater, or a side entry one for that matter. So I'm going to do that now and hopefully it's going to come apart okay. It's quite handy to have a towel for this bit as well around the bottom of the tank just to catch any drips, because as soon as we've loosened it off it might start to leak slightly. Bet this doesn't come loose first time. I'll be amazed if it does. As if. I often resort to Stilson's quite quickly because they've got a nice amount of purchase along here. Usually means you can get a lot more force on the fitting. Right, there we go. You see that's now nice and loose. So now we straight away go down and open up our drain off. Probably need a towel for this as well, they tend to leak too. So we've only had that going a few seconds now, so we should almost straight away be able to take this off and find that the water level is just hovering below the big hole. Look at that. Lola jubbler. Now's always a good time just to get a file and just file off the old edge and clean this down, ready for your new immersion heater to go in. This will help in a minute when it comes to the time of leaks. And get that so we've got a nice, flat, shiny face on there. So now we've got our old immersion off and we've drained down the tank, we've cleaned up that fitting. It's basically a nice, easy matter of getting our new immersion heater ready to go in. Most immersion heaters are supplied with a new gasket O-ring. If you find that the one you get hasn't got this in it, you better take it back because someone's pinched it. Now, this is a lovely, nice new floppy one. Often what I'll do with these is add some jointing compound to that to make sure that we get a decent joint. Also to make sure, sometimes I'll pop a little bit of PTFE around this thread as well. Really, you only want to do this once because it's just hassle trying to fill it all up again. So I'm just going to get this prepared now and get it ready to go in. So now we're ready to go back in. We're just going to feed nice and easily our immersion just down here, and then we're going to start to screw that on there just like that. That started perfectly. Often they'll go on cross-threaded, so you have to be very careful about how you screw these on. And then basically we use our tools again just to nip this up nice and lightly. We don't need to over tighten this. If we find that once we've filled it up we've got a little drip here, then we can tighten it up a little bit. Right, nip up. Right, so now we've got the immersion tightened up. Usually what I like to do before we turn the water on is just cut a small amount of the foam away. It's not going to make a massive difference to the thermal efficiency of this tank, but foam can sometimes disguise any small leaks you've got, so it's more important now to find out whether we've got any leaks than anything else. So I'm just going to cut that away as well. Right, so we've turned on our water and shut our drain off, and we've turned off all the other hot taps, and as you can see, if we have a good look here, you should see we've got no leaks at all. Excellent. So far we've got the water back on, we've got our immersion back in, we've got it all tightened up, and we know that there's no problems. Basically, we've gone in reverse what we did at the start. Now, before you rewire it up and all that sort of stuff, I'd say just go off and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Just make sure for a fact that that small flange around the outside of your new immersion isn't leaking, because sometimes it can take a few minutes for a leak to appear. Once you've had a cup of tea or you've watched the latest episode of The Chase, then basically I'd say is you follow manufacturer's instructions, you whip the new head off your new bit like that, and you'll find that usually all your connections are inside ready to go, or they're sometimes in a little bag just underneath the head like that. Wire it up according to manufacturer's instructions. When it comes to the wiring, most new immersion heaters are the same, but obviously at the same time check your instructions. Here we've got our wire clamps, our wire's going to pass through this and get clamped up. We've got our neutral terminal here, we've got our earth terminal here with an anti-vibration clamp on it, and also we've got our live in here which will be switched with our thermostat just there. So before I forget, I'm just going to set our thermostat to about 55 degrees. And now I'm going to wire it up just like this, with our earth wire here, our neutral wire nicely clamped here, and our live wire going around here, and then we've made sure it's all clamped there so that can't be moved out of the way. Pop the cover back on and make sure that's all okay, and only then can you plug it all back in, and you should hear, if it's cool enough in the water, a nice hiss from the system, and that should be the end of the job. I hope you found today's video interesting and helpful and informative. If you need any more help, visit our website at plumberparts.co.uk. Most importantly of all, can you please subscribe to our videos? It'd be great if you could, because we upload every week. We do pictures of plumbing disasters that we've seen and all that sort of stuff. It's more than just an information channel. We'd love to get to know you, and as ever, engage with us in the comments section. Please share this video as well if you think it helped you out, and also you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook by clicking on the icons above as well. I hope you come back next week to see our next video, and remember everyone, until that particular point in time whereby you get up and go, oh my god, I've got to subscribe, you say and do this one thing: hold tight.
plumberparts.co.uk. Honest reviews and advice.